Welcome everyone, Dr. Thor here, and get ready for Gnosis. Well, I want to talk about the electromagnetic spectrum, radionics, and alien technology. Well, when we're talking about radionics, we got to understand that this is a general term of harnessing informational energetic fields using technology and your own consciousness. And we need to refine this because nobody really talks about what makes this technology work. So if we're going to be using machines, what's the point of doing it? Why should you buy a machine? Why should you buy an expensive machine? What are the values of them? So we got to understand that radionics is not in the electromagnetic spectrum. Now, a lot of people believe if it's not in that spectrum, it don't exist. Well, we're at this loggerhead, this dead end with science. We moved away from what appeared to be irrational science for a few hundred years. I'm not entirely sure that's true because ancient alchemy and alchemy in general, going back to the Middle Ages and before, really was real science. They were dealing with energies, the creation of matter. Well, we moved into the controlling of matter, and of course that's where modern physics is about, and physics means physical, and they just can't get over that. So they are in this dead-end alley going a million miles an hour, and boom, it's no exit. So changing science to understand the, quote, non-physical and getting away from the electromagnetic spectrum is a loggerhead that probably will take hundreds of years to get by. In the meantime, everybody dies, the planet turns to a turd, and everything goes on because of these stupid scientists who, by the way, also assist the planet in destruction. They're building the nuclear weapons. It's very interesting that the person who worked on the Nazis' nuclear projects was one of the top physicists of his day working internationally, who came out typically German against the Nazis and then went to work for them to build nuclear weapons. How German. So it's all just a fraud. So talk one way and do the other way. Now, all scientists have done this, and they continue to give breakthroughs and be the whores of this entire planet by working for governments and other people which are totally and completely immoral. And that includes, of course, all the governments of the world, including the U.S., who certainly has never done anything of great importance and basically has just acquiesced to the weakest, most vulgar people on the planet after, of course, they spilled their blood and trillions of dollars. So that's the stupid American. So as we move into these, now we've got to understand the electromagnetic spectrum has these particularly 7 different areas: gamma rays, X-rays, ultraviolet radiation, visible light, infrared radiation, and radio waves. Now that's the electromagnetic spectrum. Do radionic or subtle energy physics, informational energetic fields, fit into any of those electromagnetic spectrum? No. So, just like everything else that is misunderstood out there, the understanding, the massless energetic fields that we work with in radionics, which can be termed by scientists of this time, basically things like tachyons, neutrinos, etc. Now, regular science is trying to say these things have some sort of mass now so they can study them. And they really don't. I mean, it's very difficult. I've designed some particular patterns and informational drawing sigils that will draw in neutrinos and tachyons. Now, this doesn't generate them. I hope everybody's passed that as well. I made a particular lecture on generating and accumulating, and this isn't even that, because you're not accumulating neutrons, you're not accumulating tachyons, you're drawing them, slowing them down to a certain degree so that they can be transferred into what you're doing and energize your problem. But this is how we get this spooky effect at a distance, or how the entire quantum physics work. If something has the same energy on Mars that it does on Earth, and it has it instantaneous, well, how does it do that? Well, it does that through neutrons and tachyons. Faster than light, instantaneous empowerment. Now, you've got to understand that most other things are in this spectrum. Now, but the energies that are so ridiculed by these regular scientists, which are psychic or mind-based energies, which are not the typical electromagnetic. Now, you do put out certain electromagnetic energies through your brain. Your brain is constantly shooting off these types of things, but this is not manifesting energies. These are not consciousness energies. This is the machine running. Plain and simple. So your consciousness or your brain is running and it's producing them. So that's kind of your engine, and it's producing these chemical reactions to move things around. Now, when you get into the manifesting areas, you're talking about energies that are these much higher levels. And we'll call them for the time being neutrinos and tachyons, which are moving these consciousness energies, which are instantaneous. Now, they've already found out with psychics and everything else, no matter what you put somebody in, you put them in a submarine 6,000 miles away, you put them in a bank vault, you put them in a Faraday cage, psychic energies reaches that. Well, there's no way of stopping this, because what you're doing is you're using the energies of creation, the informational energetic fields that are out there that you then grab onto, mold like Play-Doh into what you want. Now, you can't stop these energies at this particular point. I do believe you can do it by using fire against fire, so to speak. So if your consciousness was able to create informational energetic fields, where you can create an informational energetic field to stop other fields from getting to you or harming you. So you fight fire with fire. So what we need to, the big breakthrough, which is coming, and technology is being built or tested as we speak, is moving away from anything that carries electromagnetic energies. Now, I've always combined the two, and we're still going to be offering those because that's still state-of-the-art right now, but not for long. State-of-the-art will be non-conductive electromagnetic tools. Now, this has already been done to a large extent, and I've already done this for several years of using. As a matter of fact, 30 years ago, I built a actual laser-based radionic machine, which used the transferring of light beams down a plastic tube to carry the energy. So, as usual, I'm ahead of myself. And how can we eliminate any kind of conductive material? Now, one of the problems I have with conductive material is also drawing material. So, it's conducting the electromagnetic in your environment, which is now very toxic. Cell phones, routers, all the things we're doing are conducting these frequencies, these electromagnetic fields that are put out. And we have lots of electromagnetic everywhere. Now, this is hurting the manifestation ability. So, getting to what would be considered a more fiber optic reality. And this takes a very advanced understanding of these energies. And to make these takes a very advanced understanding as well. Because you got to know exactly what you're doing if you're making technology and starting to eliminate other things. So, we will talk about that in a minute. But the electromagnetic is not what this is all about. It's, again, there are levels of energies and functioning that are completely different one from the other. Now, this is old science, the electromagnetic spectrum. These are all very well known: visible light, X-rays, ultraviolet radiation, and of course radio waves. And there were some people in radionics that used to think that this is some sort of radio wave. And I think that's where radionics came from. The term radionics is kind of lost in history. And the term radionics was used the minute radios started to become popular, whenever that was, in the early 1900s, 1920. And it was thought that Ruth Drown thought this was some sort of radio wave that was being created and started using that term more often. Now, Abrams did not use that. It was the electric reaction of Abrams. He did not use radionics as a term. So we're not sure. Apparently, this seems to have come, and I'm not going to spend, months and hours. Where did the word radionic come from, Thor? We need to know that. We don't need to know that. So apparently it comes from Ruth Drown, and that's where I read one time. But the term radionics, as I said, has one of those words that has been used for many things, including electric kits that were sold, that you built, etc. So all these things have been used for many, many years. Kind of a cool term, radionics, which gives you that fancy new thing, radio, and then onyx, radioelectric. So it's a cool term, but when we're using it as a term now, and we're kind of looking at the entire field of it, what is the next step? Now, using these particular types of metal-based machines and is certainly something that is not going to go away too soon, but I'm trying to build a completely non-metallic-based to transfer energy. Now, why is that? Well, the point is that looking into recently some of the captured alien technology, which I've seen personally in several areas, but I've also seen it personally used by the U.S. military, who has anti-gravity. This is a reality. We have anti-gravity. It's there. I'm not the only one. I'm sure you can punch it into the web, the B-2 bombers and other things, and find out. People have seen these. Ironically, there seems to be a problem with thunderstorms, and that's how I was able to see one of these planes who came down out of the clouds in a bad thunderstorm for a few seconds, but I saw it from about, 300, 400, 500 feet away, and it was there for a very short period of time and probably then cloaked itself or took off. But it had to get out of this very violent thunderstorm that was going, and it came down in a very deserted part, and I happened to be the only person in that area at that time with my wife in the car driving by, and it was so quick we weren't able to stop and take pictures of it. You don't even think of that when you see stuff like this. It takes a few minutes to comprehend it, and when you do, it's gone. And that's another thing people need to understand of how all these things work. You really have to be psyched up to take pictures in general because you're involved in the experience. So it has been said with all these things, and anyone who's had any kind of contact with or has some knowledge of extraterrestrial crafts, none of them have any kind of dials. They don't have screens. They don't have the stuff that we would consider very Star Trek-y, with people turning dials and sitting in front of panels and watching their stuff. This doesn't seem to be the case whatsoever. As a matter of fact, it's very difficult to find anybody who's come back and say, well, I've seen all these panels. Even though I have some people have said that they have seen certain screens where they've been shown future events, etc., kind of projection-type devices. But who knows? I mean, when you get into these experiences, how much of it is real, how much has been put in your mind, we don't know. But the bottom line is that they are not using buttons. They don't communicate by mouth, basically. They are expressing things on a pure telepathic reality. And this is how everything works. They're sending these information. They're also controlling the panels. Now, if you don't think this is something super advanced, well, you're wrong. We've had controlling through psychic power of panels, or at least primitive things like turning on and off lights, for like 30 years. Sony company in the 60s had the guy who ran that company was very metaphysical at that time and had a whole ESP division. I'm not sure what happened there, but you either achieve too high of a levels and this becomes scary and dangerous and you're threatened, or it doesn't produce anything of great value. Do we need an on and off light switch controlled by your thoughts? Well, it may be fun, but I don't know if in the 70s or 80s when they were working on all this stuff, if there was really a market for that, and would people believe it or want to do it? That's devil stuff, Margaret. I pray to Jesus that we don't get the on and off switch with our brain. So this is the kind of stuff you run into. So this is nothing. We certainly can do that today, and we can pick up people's thoughts now, read minds, etc. There's a whole bunch of technology out there that can be done right now. So this isn't very far-fetched. What has happened here in recent years to prove everything radionic and psychically is William Bankston, the actual. And I mention his name often because he is a credible source. He's a researcher from a noted college with high education, all the stuff that you think is great. But this guy is looking for results, and he's not making claims. He's not doing anything. He's just saying, hey, look, this is a phenomenon that seems to work. And he's been able to psychically heal people from all sorts of horrible diseases for over 30 years now, and he's able to do it at quite a distance. They've tried it hundreds and thousands of miles. It still works. He's also found substances that hold psychic energy, and oddly enough, it's pure cotton. What? Cotton gauze, isn't that weird? But that tells us yet again it's not into a piece of metal. It's not in the electromagnetic spectrum. Now, there's something in cotton, a plant-derived product, that is holding energies. Well, this is very interesting. So, electric and metal devices are carrying electromagnetism, or they're carrying electricity through it to do particular jobs. And that's what everything is powered. So that means using electrical and medical parts is essential. Even though a lot of the parts inside of these things may be a certain variant. We hit crystals with electricity to get them to vibrate at certain frequencies. But here again, we're using electricity. But what's interesting is when we look at his research and so forth, and many others, we get past this metal product. One of the problems is, of course, you're talking about ancient societies that have been gone for 30, 40,000 years. I don't expect much to be found there. But when we go in places like the pyramids and the Mayans, we're not finding very many metal type devices. And they had a lot of metal. They had a lot of copper. They had a certain amount of gold. And we're assuming silver, gold, copper, kind of all mixed together, I think, geologically in terms of they're close to each other. But we also found that they were mixing stuff. There were certain Mayan, I think it was the Mayans, a certain isolated tribe that actually was mixing copper in with the gold to kind of extend it, because they didn't have that much. Very interesting process they had of making certain objects that looked like gold but weren't, in almost a plating type but not a plate. And they mixed it and the gold would come to the top. But I don't want to go into that now. So many fascinating things out there. But when we get involved in all this stuff, we're getting into a non-conductive, non-electromagnetic. Now, I've always been in favor of trying to grab that little electromagnetic energy that comes from your mind that you're putting in your radionic instruments and using that as well. But what we do right now is that our electromagnetic devices are tube amplifiers. Now, tube amplifiers are electric, obviously, but they create this weird vibrational energy, which is known to help in the music industry, give you these very pure sounds. Now, is that electromagnetic? Well, no, it's not. You're getting pure sounds because the tubes are able to pick up these vibrations and pass them on through an electromagnetic spectrum or through your speakers. The same thing with the transmitter. Now, our products have very specific scalar items on them. We also put tachyons, which are tachyon neutrinos made by this organization, by Radionic Success Tech. So the whole idea is all this is part of how we take the cruder energies and make them or convert them over to a particular way of working. We also convert the inner guts of the items, the tube amps, whatever it is that you are getting from us that is electric. We use special sigils to actually change the inner functioning of these and the way they work on a subatomic level. We're changing this so they can grab these energies, amplify them, and project them out. Very important because nobody understands or knows how to do that. That's an exclusive through radionic tech. So the whole idea is that this is the reality that few people understand. But yet again, we go back to this. Now, psychic power has been proven to the highest degree. Now, there's 150 years of research, number one. Number two, the work of William Bengston, and get his book, The Energy Cure, and he has a tape and he shows you how to do advanced visualization, is the best stuff out there. 30 years of proving it. And what is it? Well, it ain't using no machines, which I think is a problem on his part, but it may even be a complication. When you make a machine, you say the machine's doing it. Well, that means you're making claims. When your head does it, I guess they could take your head off. They probably will do that in the future. But the whole idea is we have to understand that it's different there. So this is the way that he is doing things. But we've proven this. So the whole idea, we've had this 150 years of research done by the top scientists of their time, and they've all come up with the same conclusions. And of course, these people are being stepped on today by the fascist scientific community that wants to keep control of what they know instead of what is right and what moves the society on. After all, they need to know how to make better weapons so they can get their little credit card from their masters. Their disgusting, evil masters, otherwise known as government. So, with his research, we know him. So the whole idea is we know it works. We always knew it worked for 150 years. We've noted that there's amazing psychic people. And that's a term now that's been, spat upon and rubbed turds on so that it is bad. It started with the Christian movement of people who demonized the term psychic. Which of course is nonsense, but I'm not sure I love that term anyway. The Russians use biophysical. I kind of like that. It sounds more scientific-y. Biophysical. But, we shouldn't allow the enemy to tell us what words we can use. What we have to do is move ahead without, and we're not going to get support from anybody. That's the way it is and always has been. Geniuses like Tesla have been ridiculed and persecuted every step of their life. So it just isn't surprising. So don't expect that. That's just the way living in hell is all about, as a Gnostic understanding of things. And there's really no refuting that either. There's absolutely nothing going on that makes any sense whatsoever. We're living in the most bizarre open-air nut house that could possibly be designed. So the whole idea is we need to look at what this is. So what is this? Is Bengston able to put a meter on something and judge the energy? And he uses the most unskilled, uninterested, even negative people that he can, and he still tends to get results. Why? Well, I think it's a complicated issue, but I'm not going to go into all that right now. What there really is going on is this transfer. They're grabbing onto it, and everybody does it, whether they consciously do it or not. You're grabbing onto informational, energetic fields, and it doesn't take a lot of meditation. You don't have to sit in the lotus position and meditate the greater world of God. Your place in the universe and who you are, which is nothing more than a turd. You are nothing, you believe nothing. This is what they all tell you. So you don't have to have any of that. And that's what's so exciting and so frightening. So they take the stupidest people on the planet. And we've seen this happen with remote viewing and the U.S. military. I mean, these are the dumbest people that you could possibly get. The most screwed up murderers, people who have murdered for governments, who are in a rigid system. These are the dumbest people you could possibly get. And we have a fairly good track record with them. We really don't know what's going on because it's all lies coming from them because that's what they are. They're government whores. So it all comes down to that as well. But we've taken the stupidest dumb, and he's done the same thing. Fortunately, and good for him, he hasn't used military people, but he's taken students, just the average people, people who are not interested, people who don't think it works, and they just connect them generally to the process and then disconnect them. Now, this is why I have so much push right now, and particularly with the sigils, where we started off as this, and that's an old world prejudice. Well, we're going to meditate on these actual sacred symbols. This will bring the sacred to you. Now, it happens instantly. Not about doing things quickly. You evolving, you using those energies in the way that you want and helping it evolve you as a person takes a lifetime. But the energies are there. It's not like I'm going to have more of this so that it tastes better. No, doesn't work like that. So, so this is what it is. So very, very fascinating. Anybody who's a serious researcher in radionics, you haven't read his book and gotten his DVDs, you're missing the boat. And you have to look at it in a bigger picture. Now, he's a very traditional person. He don't understand all this technology-y stuff. So you have to move into that. So how can we make his system stronger and better and produce energy? Now, he has a certain failure rate, but not all the time, and he's taught a lot of people. He has a whole bunch of stuff going on. So if you're really sick with anything, that's a person to talk to. As we go further in this, we're able to look at this kind of energy. So we want to move away from anything physical. The time to jump is now. There's no use waiting. So we want to move away from anything physical, anything detectable, not the other way around. You know, a lot of alternative practitioners are trying to make these things more physical. They're trying to hook up meters to them and so forth. You are being drawn into their evil web of deception because that's not how this works. And apparently ancient societies and extraterrestrials are not using this electromagnetic. These ships, again, tend not to be metal in necessarily nature. We're not sure they are even metal. Some ships have been found and they think they're kind of porcelain-like, which makes sense. Porcelain is very strong and very heat resistant. So it's not this big metal process and these metal ships. And the metal that we do find isn't traditional metal. It's, as I said, it may be even a ceramic of some sort. So when we look into things, we're not looking at physical things. And this is one reason why it's so difficult to take any kind of alien technologies and make them into things of this type. There's just nothing equivalent to it. And this, of course, has been a gripe with me and some of the emissaries of extraterrestrials. So, well, I want something physical to make, but they can't make their advanced technologies. You can't do that because you don't get it. You're a dumb guy. So the point is they're running their ships through a connection mentally. They are producing energies, and they may be running and empowering their ships. And, of course, there does seem to be some sort of propulsion systems. But these things may be consciousness-based as well. There does seem to be a certain substance that creates anti-gravity. And we know this is real. So, and they have reverse engineered this. Very, very interesting. And let's make it, let's make it 100% understanding here. 100% silent, anti-gravity, and you can't, the word hovering is bad because you're insinuating there's some motor connected to that. There is some sort of apparatus, but there's no motor. You're not hearing things turning. These are not internal stupid combustion engines invented by boobs that toxify the planet, burning the cheapest crap they can find, which at one time was oil, and to a large extent still is. There's a huge amount of oil on this planet. Should we be burning it? Well, we need to make certain other things with that, from medicines to building supplies. It's a big waste of time to burn a precious commodity like oil. When we need to make plastic out of it, ooh, we need the plastic bottle store. What happens if we burn it all up? Well, you're going to have to cup your hands together. So the whole idea is that these types of things out there is very, very important. So what does that mean? What does it mean if they're using their consciousness energies? Well, they have evolved to a point to tap into, which is what I've been doing here for years with people. When you get one of our amulets, one of our energy cells, this is a focus point for that particular energy to bring into your life. That's how it works. So you connect to these informational energetic fields, these tachyon, neutrinos, but it's past that. It's a actual energy, but you can tell that energy what to do. It works on its own. It works in space. It creates planets. It does all the other things. You could say it's almost the God energy to a degree. It creates. What is God? Well, God is a creative energy and nothing more. People want to put all that stuff there because they're just basically turds. They don't get anything. I want mommy called Goddy, because I don't want to do anything myself. So the point is that you have that power, and what's interesting is that this is available to everyone. Now, you do need tools. The average person needs tools, and even many others. Because you have to be so skilled to do this on your own that it takes a lifetime, and you've got to really understand things completely differently. As you understand things, and this is where I talk about what's the theory? Just give me a hammer. Well, the point is when your consciousness understands the energy you're dealing with, it opens up those centers to draw it to you and make it. But if you don't understand it, then it doesn't work. Now, that's what the energy cell, MEC-TEC, manifesting energy cell, that's what MEC stands for. So the whole idea is that's how you bring it into your life. And as they get stronger and stronger, and as we build more and more machines, it should get down to almost a replicator type effect. Now, to what level that will happen, we don't know. But you should be able to draw energies around you that manifest whatever you want. Not necessarily a magic lamp. Well, me want bucket of money, and you rub the lamp and that happens. But if you surround yourself with success energies and money energies, money will come to you. I don't believe the thing manifests out of thin air. The problem with that is you become a god, and based in Gnostic understanding, or an understanding in general from ancient alchemists, etc., once you reach a certain level of this kind of energetic control of the world, you cease to exist in the physical world. What's the point? The game is over. You've beaten the system. You want to play it still? What happens when you get all the monopoly money? Well, I want to keep playing because I'm winning. There's no money left. What's the point? So that's what it comes down to. So moving into this complete non-physical, complete electromagnetic lacking structure is where the ultimate will be achieved from. Of course, it was Nikola Tesla who stated, and of course the genius that he was, as soon as we start studying the non-physical, science will jump leaps and bounds in no time. And yes, Tesla, of course, you were right. And anything that's going to happen from this point on, after we've gotten away from the junk science that has ruled this society for so many years, not the alchemists, but the junk science, which is a mixture of goofball religion and stupid belief systems, once we move past all that, we have now got ourselves into a completely dead end, a complete alleyway that leads up to a brick wall that you cannot get over. And that's where we're at right now. For the last 100 years, there's been no breakthroughs in physics. None whatsoever. Now, most of the information that we have today that we're living on, that was discovered or written down, was written down in the middle to late 1800s. That information was then regurgitated, or for some reason only Einstein could figure it out, in the early 1900s, 1910, 1920. Einstein apparently started writing this. The dumb guy who married his cousin. I just don't understand why. But it just shows you that the rest of the physicists out there were totally lost. But nothing has went past that. So we now have and Einstein got all his information from the middle 1800s. So he just came to certain conclusions. And what's interesting is that all these people, as I've said before, yeah, it works like this because we have the new math. The new math explains everything. So they make up mass, they move the figures around, so their hypothesis, their theories work out because of the math that they just created to make it work out. Huh? Yeah, well, that's the way it's done. But the bottom line is that they're a complete and total failure. We have not conquered anything on this planet that we need to. At least common science hasn't. And certainly these uncredible whores that the scientists are today, looking for their paycheck and not striving to find what works, certainly have come up with nothing. Now, there was a 120-mile carburetor. And you could get 125 miles to 1 gallon of gas. These things are real. Even today, Ford has a zero-emission car that's been out for 25 years. Well, who cares? So we go on and on. It seems like Ford has done a lot for a company that has a horrible background, but they also have hydrogen cars that you can take any motor and convert it to hydrogen, and the toxins come out are terrible. Pure water. Ooh. Now, it doesn't matter if these are real. What matters is that common science and these whores that build bombs and ways of murdering people and ID recognition cameras so that the society can control you more, yet they totally gloss over and ignore the fact of our basic needs, and I've said this without, and I will continue to say it so everybody gets it. Our needs are two simple areas. We need proper healing technologies. People should live to be 130, 150 easily. And people shouldn't be dying from any disease that we know of now. That's number one need. Number two need is free energy. Energy that does not pollute and that should be actually free or should be super low cost. Those are the things that people spend all their money on energy and health, and you get nowhere with it. If we took that money that we're wasting on paying the electrical companies and the petroleum companies, and that was put into the economy, we all could have fantastic places to live. The economy would be booming. People would buy things. People want to plug less in. They want to make their appliances run on less electricity because it's so expensive. Well, we want to make lots more. We want everything should be electric. People should be able to live to be 150 easily. If people lived longer, they would care more about their climate. They would probably get along a little better because, look, I got another 60 years to go. Do I want to pollute everything? Do I want everything to be bad? Do I want to live in a prison in terms of having, because of the fact there's no opportunities and the neighborhoods are bad? This solves a lot. People, we live too long, we don't have no money. Well, that's just nonsense. That's a shallow, stupid controller mind talking like that. There's absolutely nothing to do with that. If people lived to be 150, people would work all that time. They'd work just like they do now until they get much older. So it's not really true whatsoever. Nothing changes except people's attitudes. And geniuses like Tesla and other people that die in their late 80s, I think he was in his middle 80s or whatever. Most people die in their middle 80s right now, unless they get some disease. All these people could have been working longer, doing greater work. Now, what has regular science done for that? Nothing. Our regular scientists, electric car, yeah, we plug in here. Yeah, but it's not an average electric car. It works better. It's still an electric car, and somebody has to produce that energy to charge it. Whether it's a small amount or a big amount, it doesn't matter. These people pushing this crap technology are the same people pushing going to Mars and other places that they can take trillions of dollars of black money and use it for their own. This is what's going on. And the elites are building bases on planets and underground because they know how the planet itself is going to take a giant drop in the future. That's what we need. So the point is, it doesn't really matter if it's out there or not, because we could argue with that forever. The bottom line is that your average scientist has not taken care of any of that. We have no medical breakthroughs, and we have no energy breakthroughs in the last 100 years yet again. They can't cure dandruff, they can't cure acne, And we don't really have anything that generates energy properly except burning stuff, coal, oil, etc., which is highly polluted. So we can thank our scientists for that. They have all the answers. Well, we can't believe in that kind of crappy psychic stuff, you know. We're too busy burning fuels and polluting the planet and letting your mother and father die from a disease that we could cure. What do you think we're here for, little one? This is the nonsense that we are accepting. And the bottom line is that we can blame governments, and governments are people to a certain degree. I'm not sure how much that is, but the bottom line is that people need to take their governments back. But we also have to blame the scientists who fuel this, who don't come out and say, look, we have this energy, why aren't we using it, en masse, instead of individually running back with their big paycheck and living like kings, as most academia does, or dumbademia does. That's the reality out there which we have to face. So hopefully this will make it very clear of what this new level. Now, this is very advanced information I've given here, and I'm not sure too many people will understand this in any aspect whatsoever. As Einstein said, the best scientist is a metaphysician. You have to look at the energies and what's going on and how we do this. Is this fantasy? Is this some sort of I'm riding to heaven on a horse with a human head? Yeah, you know, people believe that by the billions. So the whole idea is that it? Well, no. We have 150 years of research showing that there's definitely proof of this energy. We have 30 years of a noted scientist proving it as well. And not with little experiments. What's in the box, Yuri? Is it a ball? Is it a paper? Does it look like something? Now, he's doing little experiments like curing people of cancer. You know, little minor things. So it would be much better if he would have found people that would know what's in a box. That's the kind of feeble-minded garbage you get from the evil specter that is the James Randi of this world and his ilk. The dumb bunkers and idiot skeptics who continually drag us into the filth and mud and are really committing genocide against the planet, because this is holding back discoveries that will solve all of our problems, and we have proof of it. They don't have any proof whatsoever. I do magic tricks. Here's a card. Oh, yeah, that's one. That's amazing. That's amazing. It's only been going on for 200 years now, and you can get most of these trickies they do on you for like $2. So the whole idea is that it ain't fascinating, it ain't interesting, it ain't nothing. And what's behind these people is a deep, dark evil that needs to be overcome. So with that, until next time.